The Nexus Trading Hub existed in the beautiful chaos between star systems. A massive rotating wheel where hundreds of species conducted business, formed alliances, and occasionally found something more valuable than any cargo manifest could contain. The central marketplace sprawled across 3 levels, filled with vendors hawking everything from crystallized memories to living art that sang in colors beyond human perception. Nira Velos moved through the crowded market with practiced efficiency, her violet skin catching the artificial sunlight that filtered through the massive dome overhead. Silver markings traced intricate patterns down her arms and neck, hereditary symbols of her family's long service as diplomatic translators. Her people, the Keltharians, were known throughout the sector for their linguistic abilities and their deeply ingrained sense of tradition. Today, she wore the traditional flowing robes of her station, deep purple fabric that whispered against the floor as she walked. On her left wrist, she wore the same bracelet her mother had worn, and her grandmother before that a band of dark metal inlaid with dormant crystals that had never once shown color in the 3 generations it had been passed down. According to family legend, the resonance bracelet would glow crimson when she touched her destined partner. Nira had long ago dismissed it as romantic mythology. She was running late for a translation assignment, her datapad clutched in one hand while she navigated the press of bodies from a dozen different worlds. A Theraxian merchant's spiny tail nearly caught her robes. A group of human tourists laughed loudly at something one of them had said. The air hummed with 1,000 conversations in 100 languages, most of which Nira understood instinctively. Marcus Webb was having a significantly better day than usual, which was saying something for a cargo specialist who spent most of his time ensuring that volatile shipments didn't explode, leak, or gain sentience during transport. He'd just secured a major contract that would keep him employed for the next 6 months, and he'd decided to celebrate by exploring parts of the hub he normally ignored. He was tall for a human, with dark hair that perpetually looked slightly messy despite his best efforts, and warm brown eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. His clothes were practically a worn jacket over a dark shirt, pants with too many pockets, and boots that had seen him through more close calls than he cared to count. At 32, he'd been working in space long enough to feel comfortable anywhere, but not so long that he'd lost his sense of wonder at the diversity surrounding him. Marcus had stopped at a vendor, selling what appeared to be living flowers that changed, scent based on your mood when the collision happened. He'd stepped backward to avoid a Grixen's tentacle, just as Nira had turned sharply to avoid the Theraxian's tail. They came together in a tangle of limbs and fabric, Nira's datapad flying from her hand as Marcus instinctively reached out to steady her. His hand caught her wrist. The effect was instantaneous and extraordinary. The dormant crystals in Nira's bracelet blazed to life with brilliant crimson light, so bright that several nearby vendors and shoppers turned to stare. The light pulsed in rhythm with something, perhaps her heartbeat, perhaps something deeper, casting rose-colored shadows across both their faces. Nira gasped, her turquoise eyes going wide with shock. She tried to pull away, but Marcus's hand remained on her wrist, both of them frozen in the moment. The bracelet's glow intensified, and Nira felt a warmth spreading from the point of contact, racing up her arm and settling somewhere in her chest like a living flame. "I'm so sorry," Marcus said quickly, releasing her wrist and taking a step back. "I wasn't watching where I was going. Are you all right?" But Nira couldn't respond. She stared at the bracelet on her wrist, watching the crimson light pulse steadily, undeniably. This wasn't possible. The bracelet had been dormant for generations. Her mother had worn it for 60 years without a single flicker. Her grandmother had passed away still hoping to see it glow. And now, here, in the middle of a crowded marketplace, after an accidental collision with a human, "Miss?" Marcus bent down to retrieve her data pad, concern evident in his voice. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Did I hurt you? No, Nira managed, her voice coming out barely above a whisper. You didn't. I'm not. She took a breath, trying to regain her composure, but her eyes kept darting back to the crimson glow. I'm fine. Thank you for catching me. Marcus held out her data pad, noticing for the first time the glowing bracelet. That's beautiful. Does it always do that? Never, Nira said before she could stop herself. She took the data pad with her other hand, acutely aware that her hand was trembling. It has never done that. Not once. Not ever. Something in her tone made Marcus look more closely at her face. She was striking. He realized not just the exotic violet skin or the silver markings, but something in her expression, a mix of wonder and terror that made him want to understand what had just happened. I'm Marcus, he offered. Not sure what else to say, but feeling like he shouldn't just walk away. Marcus Webb. I work in cargo management here on the hub. Nira Velos, she replied automatically, her translator training taking over even as her mind raced. I'm a diplomatic translator. She looked at him properly for the first time, really seeing him, the kindness in his eyes, the strength in his shoulders, the way he stood as if ready to help if she needed it. This is very complicated. Complicated I can handle, Marcus said with a gentle smile. I once had to transport a shipment of Proximan phase spiders. They exist in 7 dimensions simultaneously and have very strong opinions about temperature control. Whatever's going on with your bracelet, it can't be more complicated than that. Despite everything, despite the impossible glow on her wrist and the way her heart was racing and the complete upheaval of everything she thought she knew. Nira laughed. It was a short, surprised sound, but genuine. You have no idea what you've just said, she told him, but she was smiling now, just a little. The bracelet continued to pulse with steady crimson light, and she found herself less frightened and more curious. In my culture, this bracelet is called a resonance link. It's passed down through families, and it's supposed to glow when you meet someone with whom you share a deep fundamental compatibility. A soul bond, if you believe in such things. Marcus's eyebrows rose, and it just lit up when I grabbed your wrist. Yes. Has it ever done that before? No, not for me. Not for my mother. Not for my grandmother. Not in 3 generations of women in my family has this bracelet shown even the faintest glow. Nira's voice was steadier now, though her mind still whirled. And now it activates for a human I've known for approximately 90 seconds. A slow smile spread across Marcus's face. Well, that's either the universe's idea of a joke, or the universe knows something we don't yet. The universe has a peculiar sense of humor, if it's the former, Nira said. But she found herself returning his smile. There was something about him in easy confidence, a warmth that made her feel less adrift in this impossible moment. Listen, Marcus said, glancing around at the crowd that had started to disperse now that the initial spectacle had passed. I know this is probably very strange for you, and I'm guessing you have somewhere you need to be, but he paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. Would you maybe want to get coffee? Or tea? Or whatever Keltharians drink? Just to, I don't know, figure out what just happened? Nira knew she should say no. She was already late for her assignment. She had 3 other translations scheduled for the afternoon. She had reports to file and a transmission to send to her family back on Kelthara. She had a dozen perfectly reasonable things she should be doing instead of getting coffee with a human stranger whose simple touch had activated a legendary artifact. Yes, she heard herself say. I would like that very much. The bracelet pulsed brighter for just a moment, as if approving her decision. Marcus led Nira through the marketplace to a quieter section of the hub, where the commercial frenzy gave way to smaller establishments that catered to those seeking respite from the chaos. The cafe he chose was tucked into a corner observation deck, its transparent walls offering a stunning view of the stars beyond the station's protective shields. Inside, the lighting was soft and warm, and the air carried the mingled scents of a dozen different world's comfort beverages. "I come here when I need to think," Marcus explained as they settled into a curved booth designed to accommodate various body types. "The owner is a Turellian. She doesn't talk much, which I appreciate after a long day of negotiating with suppliers who never stop talking." Nira slid into the seat across from him, her robes arranging themselves gracefully around her. She kept glancing at her wrist, where the bracelet continued its steady crimson pulse. In the softer lighting of the cafe, it cast dancing shadows across the table between them. A tall, willowy being with pale blue skin and enormous dark eyes approached their table. She looked at Nira's bracelet for a long moment, then at Marcus, then back to the bracelet. Without saying a word, she produced a small pad and waited. "Tess as usual," Marcus said. "And for you?" "Silverleaf tea, if you have it," Nira requested. "If not, whatever is closest to it." The Turellian nodded and glided away. "She's telepathic," Marcus explained. "She knows what I want before I ask. Tess as usual is actually named after my coworker Tessa Quinn. She's the one who introduced me to this place." He leaned back, studying Nira with open curiosity. "So, tell me about this bracelet. What does it mean, exactly? Beyond the whole soul bond thing?" Nira wrapped her other hand around her wrist, feeling the warmth emanating from the crystals. The resonance links were created thousands of years ago by our most gifted artisans and empaths. They're supposed to detect perfect compatibility, not just physical attraction, but mental, emotional, and spiritual harmony. When two people who are truly meant to be together touch, both of their links will glow. Both. Marcus looked at his own bare wrists. "I'm not wearing one." "No, you're not," Nira acknowledged, her brow furrowing. "Which is unprecedented. The stories always involve two Keltharians, each wearing their family's link. I've never heard of a link responding to someone who isn't wearing one at all. And certainly never to someone from another species." "Maybe it's broken?" Marcus suggested gently. "These don't break," Nira said with certainty. "They're more durable than the hulls of most starships. And besides, I felt something when you touched me." "Didn't you?" Marcus was quiet for a moment, his expression thoughtful. "Yeah," he admitted. "I did. Like a warmth or a current. I thought it was static electricity from the marketplace, but—" He trailed off, meeting her eyes. "It felt like more than that." The Turellian returned with their beverages, a steaming mug of something dark and aromatic for Marcus, and a delicate cup of pale green tea for Nira. The owner's large eyes lingered on them for a moment before she departed. And Nira could have sworn she saw the hint of a smile on the alien's thin lips. "To unexpected encounters," Marcus said. Raising his mug, Nira touched her cup to his, the soft clink of ceramic seeming to echo with significance. "To impossible things becoming possible." They drank in comfortable silence for a moment, and Nira found herself relaxing despite the strangeness of the situation. There was something about Marcus that put her at ease, a genuine quality that she rarely encountered in her work. As a translator, she spent most of her time around diplomats and politicians, people whose every word was calculated and measured. Marcus seemed refreshingly direct. "Tell me about cargo management," she said, surprising herself with the request. "What made you choose that profession?" Marcus laughed. "It chose me, honestly. I grew up on a transport ship my parents ran supply routes between the outer colonies. I learned young that the difference between a successful run and a disaster often comes down to understanding what you're carrying and how to keep it stable. After they retired, I figured I'd stick with what I knew." "Do you enjoy it?" "Most days," he said with a shrug. I like the problem-solving aspect. Every cargo is a puzzle. How to load it, secure it, keep it at the right temperature or pressure or gravitational field. And I like the variety. Yesterday, I was handling crystallized stardust for an art installation. Tomorrow I'm supposed to transport a colony of singing moss that needs constant humidity and a specific light frequency. It's never boring. Singing moss? Nira repeated, intrigued despite herself. From Verdantia Prime, they harmonize when they're happy. The buyer wants to use them as living decoration in a restaurant. Apparently, they enhance the dining experience. Marcus took another sip of his drink. What about you? How does someone become a diplomatic translator? Nira's expression grew more guarded. In my family, it's tradition. My mother was a translator, and her mother before her. Keltharians have a natural gift for languages. Our neural structure allows us to process and reproduce sounds across a much wider range than most species. Add in years of training in cultural nuances and protocol, and you have someone who can facilitate communication between groups that might otherwise never understand each other. That sounds incredibly important, Marcus observed. But you said it's tradition. Is it what you wanted to do? The question caught Nira off guard. No one had ever asked her that before. On Kelthara, questioning one's path, especially a path laid out by generations of family tradition, was considered almost heretical. She began, then paused, choosing her words carefully. I'm good at it. I find satisfaction in helping different worlds understand each other. But sometimes I wonder what it would be like to choose something for myself, rather than following the path that was chosen for me. Marcus nodded slowly. I get that. My parents were disappointed when I didn't want to take over their transport business. They'd built it from nothing, and they assumed I'd continue their legacy. It took a while for them to understand that I needed to find my own way, even if it was in the same general field. How did you convince them? I told them that honoring what they taught me didn't mean doing exactly what they did. I could use their lessons and apply them differently. Eventually, they came around. He leaned forward slightly. The thing is, tradition is important. It connects us to where we came from. But it shouldn't be a cage. Nira felt something shift in her chest at his words. The bracelet pulsed brighter for a moment, as if responding to the emotional resonance between them. You're very wise for a cargo specialist, she said softly. I have my moments, Marcus replied with a grin. Usually when I'm talking to beautiful alien diplomats whose magic bracelets think we're meant to be together. Nira felt heat rise in her cheeks, a Keltharian blush that darkened her violet skin to deep purple. The bracelet measures compatibility. It doesn't guarantee anything. No? Marcus's expression grew more serious. Then what happens now? According to your tradition, I mean. Traditionally, when two links activate, the individuals spend time together, a courtship period. They learn about each other, share experiences, and determine if the connection the links detected is genuine. If the bond proves true, they formalize it through a bonding ceremony. If not? She hesitated. If not, the links are reset, and both individuals move on. How often does the if not happen? Rarely, Nira admitted. The links are almost never wrong. But there are exceptions. Sometimes external circumstances, family disapproval, career obligations, incompatible life goals make a bond impossible, even if the compatibility is real. Marcus absorbed this information, his fingers tracing patterns on his mug. And what do you want to happen, Nira? Forget the bracelet and tradition for a moment. What do you want? It was such a human question, direct, personal, focused entirely on individual desire rather than social obligation. And it was exactly the question Nira needed to hear. I want to understand why this happened, she said slowly. I want to know if what I felt when you touched me was real, or if it was just surprise and confusion. I want. She took a breath. I want to know you, Marcus Webb, even if it's completely illogical and goes against everything I thought I knew about how the links work. Marcus's smile was warm and genuine. Well, that's convenient. Because I'd very much like to know you too, Nira Velos. Magic bracelet or no magic bracelet? They talked for hours, their conversation flowing as easily as if they'd known each other for years rather than hours. Marcus told her about growing up on transport ships, about the time he'd accidentally released a cargo hold full of luminar butterflies that had taken 3 days to recapture, about his dream of eventually owning his own small freight company. Nira shared stories of her translation work, of the satisfaction of helping 2 hostile species find common ground, of her secret love for ancient poetry that her more practical family members considered frivolous. As the artificial day cycle dimmed toward evening, the stars beyond the cafe's windows grew brighter. The Torellian owner brought them more drinks without being asked, and Nira noticed that the cafe had slowly emptied until they were the only customers remaining. I should contact my supervisor, Nira said reluctantly, glancing at her data pad for the first time in hours. I missed 3 appointments today. They'll be wondering what happened to me. Will you get in trouble? Probably, Nira admitted. Missing scheduled translations is highly irregular, but she looked at the bracelet, still glowing steady crimson. I think I can argue extenuating circumstances. Marcus reached across the table, palm up, a question in the gesture. Nira hesitated only a moment before placing her hand in his. The warmth flooded through her again, stronger this time, and the bracelet blazed so brightly that it lit up both their faces. This is real, Marcus said quietly. Whatever this is, it's real. Yes, Nira agreed, her fingers intertwining with his. It is. So what do we do about it? Nira thought about her family back on Kelthera, about the expectations that had shaped her entire life, about the carefully planned future that had never included a human cargo specialist with kind eyes and an easy smile. She thought about tradition and duty and all the reasons this was complicated and improbable and potentially impossible. And then she thought about how, for the first time in her life, something had chosen her. The bracelet hadn't activated because of family obligation or career advancement or social expectation. It had activated because of genuine, inexplicable compatibility with this person across from her. We take it one day at a time, she said finally. We spend time together. We see if this connection is as real as it feels. And we deal with the complications as they come. I can work with that, Marcus said, squeezing her hand gently. They left the cafe together, walking slowly through the quieter, evening corridors of the hub. Marcus insisted on escorting her back to the diplomatic quarters, and Nira found she didn't want to say goodbye yet. At her door, they stood facing each other, neither quite ready to end the day. When can I see you again? Marcus asked. Tomorrow? Nira suggested. I have morning obligations, but perhaps lunch? I'll meet you at the North Plaza, near the fountain. Noon? Noon, Nira confirmed. Marcus lifted her hand to his lips, a gesture Nira recognized from human customs, and pressed a gentle kiss to her knuckles. The bracelet flared brightly, and Nira felt her breath catch. Good night, Nira Velos. Good night, Marcus Webb. She watched him walk away down the corridor, his hands in his pockets, a spring in his step. Only when he'd turned the corner and disappeared from sight did she enter her quarters and lean against the closed door, her heart racing. The bracelet glowed on her wrist, steady and certain, a crimson beacon that had waited 3 generations to find its purpose. Nira touched it gently, feeling the warmth that still lingered from Marcus's touch. Well, she whispered to the empty room, I suppose you know something I don't. The bracelet pulsed once, as if in agreement. And Nira found herself smiling as she prepared for whatever complications tomorrow might bring. For now, in this moment, she allowed herself to simply feel the joy of an impossible connection that somehow felt more right than anything she'd ever known. Outside her window, the stars wheeled silently through space, ancient witnesses to the beginning of something neither tradition nor logic could have predicted.